So about this, I think this is 8 months old now at this point. This is something that happened 8 months ago. We had a situation with Sienna Mae, right? And we're going to do a little recap. Let's see. What's the name Papa got? And we're going to do a little recap. If you want to get like the full, yes, 7 months ago? Okay. 7 months ago, we had like a thing going on with Sienna Mae. Okay. Now, I think it would be really good if we looked at where we are right now. Like what... See if we can find the clip specifically. Okay, I think we found the clip here. Okay. This is very important. And as we look through this, I'm going to give you my take on on the reality and the practicality of this situation. But here we go.
I unequivocally deny
that part. I don't. Okay.
The allegations that I sexually assaulted Jack Wright.
Okay.
This video is from November 30th.
So what we need to understand, right here in this situation, is this: Sienna Mae. Okay, this is a lot here. Sienna Mae and Jack Wright are dating in some capacity. His friends claim that they weren't dating at all. It was just a public thing for views and attention or whatever. Her perspective, it was online and offline. The most reasonable perspective is that they were dating in some capacity. It's very difficult. Oh, I just hit a button. It's very difficult for people to disconnect their work, business and pleasure, I guess you would say. They were dating in some capacity. I think it's a little bit of a dishonest take to say that they weren't dating at all. They were dating. Now, just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you're allowed to do things like this at all. However, most mature established relationships, this is appropriate interaction. Two people are drunk. He's obviously drunk to the point where he couldn't normally consent. This is something where in most mature, healthy relationships, this is actually fine. It's just the truth. Now, does that make this okay? Absolutely not. However, this doesn't make Sienna Mae a predator. My perspective is that she did a bad thing, but she's emulating, like most young people do, healthy relationships, right? Another thing we have to acknowledge is that these people in this situation, the person filming it, the guy sitting next to him, they didn't acknowledge that this was bad either, because this is something that apparently would happen regularly. They would get together and they would get drunk. Jack Wright is in his comfortable space with his friends and his family. Sienna Mae is there as well. Yes, I'd be saying the same thing if it was the reverse, if it was a guy and a girl. Okay? A lot of people are using this as a vehicle to say oh, look, there's a double standard between men and women. A lot of people, I think, are giving Sienna Mae a lot more shit specifically because she's a woman and they want to play the game of oh, but what about double standards for women? I do understand, but you have to be more mature about this situation. The problem here is it's a lot of young people weighing in on something that you have a very small understanding of. And that's just the reality of the situation. These people as well, young people that don't understand. Does that mean that Jack Wright's not allowed to be upset? Of course not. He most likely feels violated. I understand that. That's perfectly fair. That's a perfectly fair thing to say and think. I do understand that. But it doesn't make Sienna Mae a predator. And this is the problem that you guys are having, right? Okay. Now, it's been months since this whole situation, 7 months since this entire situation has happened. And Jack Wright's been honestly teasing this for a while. And it's something that to me comes off as very dishonest. He made this post here that says, "Can't stay quiet anymore," especially when the other guys in LA told me about what she did to them as well. I'm done being gaslighted in silence. We're going to look into what he says. And silence, you all deserve to know. Please give me a little more time, but please let me know that I've had love and support through all of this from my friends, family, etc. The thing is that so far the way that this has been portrayed, and maybe there's more that we don't know, is that this is that what we had just seen, this is the thing that's upsetting him.
Friends back.
Well, I don't know. Oh, this is over here. I understand that, but we have to understand that when it comes to different types of sexual assault, it's a spectrum. We have to understand that. I think one of the problems fundamentally in society now is that we're having conversations about it, and that's great, but people are prescribing the worst case scenario aspect to everything. So people are like, "Oh, she's a predator," and Jack Wright's this massive victim. I'm sure he's violent. I wouldn't doubt that. But I think that we're going into we're taking this to the moon. Now, he's decided to speak about this publicly. He never had to. That's a good thing. It's good to have a conversation. There might be more that we don't know. But we're going to look and see what's going on. Because so far, for the past 7 months, we've had a situation where Sienna Mae has been getting, in my opinion, I think it's an educational point to talk about, but she's been getting called a predator, and it's inappropriate. People who think that, you guys are wildly uneducated about it. But we have to see what other information there is. Because so far, the operating information that we have, this was a boundary issue that none of the people in the situation knew that it was a boundary issue. Not Sienna Mae, not any of his friends, not even Jack Wright, because he said it's constantly happening. right? It's something that consistently is happening. Now, I know the first thought is like, oh, you're victim blaming. I'm not victim blaming, right? The way that these things usually work is when something consistently is happening that people are uncomfortable with, you need to do the best that you can to disengage from the situation, right? I don't think that Jack knew that this was a violating thing in the first place, and he thought it was okay, even if it made him feel uncomfortable, which is why he didn't stop it. But this comes to a fundamental lack of education on these topics. That's the point that I'm saying. So that's what I wanted to say. So yeah, let's go.
Off by saying, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support and for giving me time. I wanted to share what I went through with Sienna and my side of the story. I want to start off by saying, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support. And
okay, let's get this video going.
I've sat down many times trying to do this. It's been very hard. I want to start off by saying, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support and for giving me time. I wanted to share what I went through with Sienna and my side of the story. This all started when my friend came out with a tweet because he was worried about me. He actually...
All right, so I struggle with seeing a girl getting praise after telling my best friend to kill himself and sexually assaulting him numerous times after he set boundaries, and repeatedly wonder why he doesn't look back like you back. Also has a history of verbally assaulting people in high school in LA. This she prioritizes the growth of her platform rather than positive message she is representing herself as. Followers should not be an excuse to get away with the abusive behavior. Okay, so we need to... Jack and James have brought the best... Okay, so let's see what the abusive behavior is. Obviously, you shouldn't tell somebody to take their own life. You know, let's see
what Sienna did to me. After Mason's tweet, their family reached out to our family, told Mason to take down his tweet, and he did. We wanted to settle it offline. Our families and our lawyers got together.
So one thing I'm just gonna say, because like we have this, apparently this is talking about Jack. So we say like she sexually assaulted him numerous times after he set boundaries. The problem that I have with that, and like I know, listen, like they're inviting us to have a conversation about this publicly, is that they mention that this is something that's happened before, right? That's just something that he mentioned and his brother have mentioned. Like they would get drunk and then she would do that to him, which is inappropriate if they set boundaries. The problem is I question why, if you're in a space where your brother's recording and your friend is with you, and like and you're in a space where like your friends are there, why they didn't stop it. So it's just something like, it's something that they should, if they knew it was inappropriate, if he had expressed that this is inappropriate and she continued to do it, why weren't they stopping the interaction? This is why, like, to me, it feels like there was no established boundaries set so far based off of the information that we have.
To me. After Mason's tweet, their family reached out to our family, told Mason to take down his tweet, and he did. We wanted to settle it offline. Our families and our lawyers got together. My statement was confirming the...
All right. Well, I love sharing my life with all of you. Some parts are deeply personal, and I have been hesitant to share my own emotional mental experience or well-being. But I will say this: sexual assault is a serious matter and has real consequences. Mason and James' only intention was to protect me with the truth, and I really value their enormous support through the extreme difficult time. I truly encourage my childhood friend Sienna to get the support and help that she needs. I don't want to share anybody down and only wish healing for everybody. I want to thank all of you who have reached out with love, support, kindness, and for
tweet. It was the truth, and basically that we're handling it offline now. Sienna posted her own version.
All right, friends fight and relationships sometimes change, but allegations of a criminal act are not to be thrown around loosely. Making an untrue sexual assault claim is never okay. I'm beyond saddened of the situation. In order for all of us to move forward, I will be taking this offline with Jack. Thanks to all who have reached out to love and concern. Okay, so we basically have like a he said, she said
of the statement, and said she was going to handle it offline. After that, she basically posted an 8-minute video invalidating my feelings, saying untrue stuff about me, about my friend and my brother. I think the most hurtful thing is that what she did to me, she said it was untrue. That hurt a lot. After that video, another one of my friends came out with the video when I was at a party, like passed out on the couch. When they told me about what happened, they said they pulled her off of me. My twin, a friend, and another friend got in an argument with Sienna saying, "You can't do that. Jack doesn't like you like that." That night she posted a 15-part aggressive video, gaslighting everything.
Do we have that video?
About what happened, how much she loved me, and that I was using her for clout, which was all lies.
Interesting. Do we have that video? Is there a way to watch that video? Because so far we have a bit of like a narrative shift here. Okay, so they stopped him from doing that at that point, said that he doesn't like her that way. Okay. This is pretty new information. Okay.
It was typical gaslighting to a victim. It was.
I need to hear like what does that mean? Like what I wish we could find it. I don't know what the 15-minute Instagram gaslighting is.
Why didn't you stop hanging out with me? Why didn't you tell me in the first place? Someone who explained it perfectly is this guy on TikTok. He posted a video and it was just, he explained oh my God. He explained everything perfectly.
Is a trauma that you have to process, and sometimes you have to process it alone because an entire society is against you as a man. Sienna, I've watched the video exactly of what happened, the video evidence that I've seen over and over and over again, and you say his hand moves. His hand moves.
Well, like, what is it that I've covered? Like, if I covered that situation of her saying, like, hey, this isn't what... Okay, so then what we're referring to is when she said, hey, we didn't have we had an online and offline situation. Okay, so that's what we covered. So, like, yeah, it sounds like a lack of, like, a boundary establishment here. It sounded like that video that we saw was like the breaking point, but so what it seems like now is that the video that we saw where she was like groping him when he was passed out, that was the breaking point video, where I think the other friend, I should have watched the whole video, hold on, the other friend finally got to a point where like he sit down and establish boundary. What the fuck is it? Let's see. Okay, this video here. Let's watch this again.
Unequivocally deny the allegations that I sexually assaulted Jack Wright.
This video is from November 30th, 2020.
Okay.
As you can clearly see, that is Sienna and that is Jack passed out on the couch, unconscious. This is the first time I met Sienna and I did not know that they had a fake relationship.
So this is the part that really gets me. It's the fake relationship part. So the whole thing is centers around whether it was or wasn't a fake relationship in that moment. And like Jack's perspective is it was a fake relationship, I'm assuming, because that was so far has only been expressed to the friends. And Sienna's perspective is that like it was fake and real at the same time. Like there were moments online and offline. And so like to them, even by him saying, oh, I didn't know it was fake, means to him, he feels that it would have been appropriate if it was a real relationship. Right? And that's something that's their perspective in the room, which again isn't even fully true. Like normally most healthy relationships would allow this type of behavior, but they weren't in a healthy, like, you know, relationship with established respectful boundaries. And it seems like so far what we have is that this is the breaking point here. And then like he found out that it wasn't a real relationship. I don't know from who. Because this is something that's very important. Because in the video, he thought that they were in like what we'd call a real relationship. And then he found out in this day, because he gets up and walks away, that they wasn't real. Which means somebody said, hey, they're not really dating. Which means the other people in the room were still allowing it to happen, even though these were Jack's friends and family in general. Which means that there's a lot of lack of established boundaries in general. So
this is me in the white hat. I was taking care of Jack
Yeah.
while he was unconscious on the couch. Sienna then hops on top of him, and I didn't think nothing of it. I started hearing kissing noises, and I peeked over my shoulder, and it was exactly that. I was so thrown off guard that I had to leave the situation. Whatever their relationship was at the time, obviously this was not right. So I went back and took Sienna off of Jack. Not to mention when I got closer, I noticed her right hand inappropriately touching his crotch. She was shocked that I pulled her off, and she kept trying to justify what she had just done. I talked to James and Jack the next day about the situation
I wish I would have heard what she said to justify it.
that happened at night. And James said that happens all the time. These are the facts, and I'm a witness. Night. And James said that happens all the time.
Okay, so James said that it happens all the time. So I question why James didn't stop it. And you might be getting upset there, but like genuinely speak, like if you were in a room, personalize it. You were in a room with your friend that was drunk, passed out, and there was somebody kissing on them. Why? What's the justification for not stopping it? Either James didn't give a shit, or I don't really know what the justification would have been for James to not care. Why didn't he stop it? It sounds like, again, everybody is uneducated in this room on like these boundaries. This is the biggest problem here. It's a lot of young people that are just fundamentally uneducated on sexual assault and like the proper way to operate in this room.
Because it falls off of his friend's back. Your hand is on his crotch. It is not on his upper thigh. He was unconscious. You did.
Maybe he was shocked by it since he left and came back. What are you talking about? This was happening consistently. They see James, his brother, said that this happens all the time, which means it happened multiple times where he's watching the situation and he's filming it instead of stopping it. Right? Why not stop the inappropriate behavior? Again, the most reasonable assumption is because nobody in the room was educated that this was even inappropriate behavior. This is one of those problems here. Yeah, his brother said that. Yeah, his brother said that. James, his brother said that. This is the problem that I'm having with it. Is like it's very this is a very like loaded type of situation. There's a lot. I think that a lot of women will probably understand this, but there's I've heard a lot of women say that this like go through a story generally like this, that they're interacting with a guy. And they don't like they don't want to like sexually interact with him, and they keep saying, "No, I don't want to," and he's being pushy, and like eventually they allow him to do it. And it's a very bizarre thing because they're like, I know they because we have like an inappropriate interaction, which is sexual assault. For sure. And a lot of them are like, he did this really bad thing to me, but I don't think he's a bad person because like it seemed like there was an issue with the way that he was interpreting shit. It's a very bizarre thing. The only thing I'm trying to establish is that you can sexually assault somebody without being a predator, right? So that's the kind of the point that I'm trying to make here.
A bad thing, and I know you're trying to right it in every way you can because of the account that you have and the following that you have and the life that you're currently living, but I need you to just do us all a favor and admit what you did was wrong. I don't care how touchy-feely your relationship was prior to or after that moment, but just know that he did not speak up and he did not act any different because he knew a society would be against him as it is. And now that everybody's seen the truth,
I feel like he didn't speak. He spoke up to his brother apparently by what he just said, but the brother didn't stop it. I think that like there just seems to be a fundamental lack of education on what's happening in this scenario.
Attacked in a way that is supposed to be an apology or a righting the wrong. What you're doing is manipulating right now. Any sane person knows that they wouldn't have to go on multiple platforms to post something like this, and they wouldn't be getting angry in the videos that are supposed to be addressing and apologizing. I know you've got a lot to lose, and I know you've got a lot to live for, but here's the truth. You getting worked up because people are trying to get the truth out of you does not make it right to get shitty in a video. Just know that the truth will prevail, and your bullshit lies will come out.
I just feel like this idea that Sienna Mae was intentionally trying to like assault somebody is like that's the problem here. It's like I don't think it's unrealistic for people to think. Like, here's like, do I think that like she should lose her platform? I don't really give a shit. Like, she did a wrong thing, but the solution, that what people are saying, isn't like, oh, you did a really bad thing, you didn't respect boundaries, and this is an educational conversation about boundaries, and you really fucked up Jack Wright. That's not what's being said. What's being said is that she's a rapist and a predator, and I think that that's just wildly inaccurate to the situation.
I think his video was one of the reasons why I was okay and was able to not come out with like an aggressive statement like her. I was able just to, I knew the truth. I knew what she did to me. Sienna and I met 4 years ago in high school. She was dating my good friend. And basically it did not turn out well. She cheated on him 2 times.
That's shitty.
And it kind of like created this whole problem in our friend group. I'm the type of guy that's all for like second chances with people. And I always try to see the good in people. I was in the Hype House. I was going back and forth from LA, and Sienna had just gone viral on a couple videos. She reached out to me and basically asked if I want to do an interview with her in LA, and I said of course. We hung out, reconnected. I showed her around the Hype House, introduced her to all my friends, and I was happy for her, and we just had fun hanging out. I just want to clarify.
God, I already talked about this. If he was the one who did it, he would be labeled as a rapist and predator. Yeah, that's how they're labeling her. This is what I'm talking about. The reactionary perspective is like, oh, it's a man, we have to be harder on the girl. That's basically what you're saying. I'm trying to listen to the entirety of the situation. I'm trying to have like a nuanced conversation, and you're having like a very, very, very shallow perspective of like, oh, if he did it to her, it would have been worse. And it's like, we have to listen to the facts of the situation, try to be as unbiased as possible, rather than to have a reactionary response and saying like, oh, she must be a predator because he would get shit. It's like more of like it's just like this kind of thing where it's like, oh, double standards, we have to be like harder on the person that the double standards usually encourage, right?
That we both knew that we were just friends. She was seeing and talking to other guys in LA all the time, and I just thought of her as a good friend. We were making videos, we were making dance trends, we had fun. It was just strictly friends, and we both knew that. At this point, nothing inappropriate was happening between us. We were just friends, everything was fine. This next part of the video is very difficult for me to talk about. I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time. So the first incident where Sienna crossed boundaries, it was after filming. We went to the room. I was just chilling on my phone on the bed, and she got naked, like completely naked, nothing on, and straddled me when I was literally just chilling on the bed. But I didn't know what to do.
Hold on one second. Okay, so here's the thing. This is from... So, like, here's the thing. If you look up the two of them dating, there's videos of them on TikTok about how they're dating. I'm just looking into this thing. Let's see. Let's see if we could look at this with this new framing. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Interesting. Okay, I got to keep reading this. Interesting. Because people are talking. Okay, I'm trying to figure this one big issue of them, like, this is a big question of whether or not they were dating, whether or not there was like an established dating thing. Because if she said that they were dating online and offline, or there was some kind of like dating thing, then like it was more justified in her perspective. However, so far as I'm reading these things, yeah, it seems like everything that's saying is that they're dating. And then they just kind of stopped posting together and they never really broke up. I'm trying to understand. Okay, so they never had a publicly confirmed relationship, but began posting videos that showed them kissing, hugging, cuddling, and dancing with each other on their respective social media platforms in October 2020. Bolstered their apparent relationship. So they never confirmed it. This is so interesting. I'm just trying to like get to the bottom of this, because like if I'm trying to understand, because it's a big deal whether they were or weren't dating. Because they never confirmed the relationship, which is a big deal. And like, obviously I can't get everything that's talking about the sexual assault. I'm trying to look for things before that.
Hey,
let's see. History. Semi body positive queen, blah blah blah. There is a image surrounding her love life and spotted getting quite flirty with High Pass member Jack Wright. So okay, so there's actually
the 3.
Yes!
I should probably be looking at this on this screen, obviously. That would be probably better. Fuck, get this fucking bullshit out of here. Sienna Mae.
Shut up. Here you go.
Like, there's some pictures here. This doesn't mean that they're in a relationship. This doesn't mean that they're in a relationship. And actually, like, this is something that I guess I never picked up on this. Best friends' birthdays are the hardest to post. And when was his birthday? I don't know. Post for, because there's so much I want to say, yet no words of justice. Therefore, all I'm going to write is I am forever thankful for both you and the different types of love you have each other shown. I love you, bestie and friend. Happy 18th. So this is when he turned 18. This is flirty, but she even says that they're best friends. Wait, hold on. Fucking shit. I think, this is obviously a big deal. When did he turn 18? March. Okay. So this still can be consistent because, oh, it says it right here. I'm a fucking moron. Because they apparently started dating in October. Apparently by her account. But I can't find anything specifically that says that they're together. This makes it very difficult. The reason that this is like difficult is because we have on like the one hand, we have her saying that they had an online versus offline relationship. Then you have on the other hand, you have a pattern of like his brother watching her like violate him consistently and not stopping it. Then you have like the other guy who stopped it eventually when he found out that they weren't in a relationship. It's just, there's something that's not adding up. There's something that's not really adding up here. Let's see. Maybe this helps. Let's see. Okay. And this is like a really crucial thing.
I'm passing the phone to a simp.
I'm passing the phone to somebody who only likes me when I'm with Jack.
I'm passing the phone to the nicest fuckboy I know. I'm passing the phone to a guy stuck in a fake relationship.
I'm passing the phone to somebody who's too socially awkward to talk to somebody in the first place.
Okay, wait. So this is wait a minute. So this is like very okay. There's some kind of relationship going on there then. So they're stuck in a fake relationship. So what does that mean? So that means that like I wouldn't make the unreasonable assumption that it was like online, offline, where she had like she was thinking like, oh, okay, we're together in some capacity. This is where like the biggest fucking problem comes from. It's like there seems to be like this really big question about like the intentions of what their relationship and the boundaries of their relationship are.
Stuck in a fake relationship.
I'm passing the phone to somebody who's too socially awkward to talk to somebody in the first place.
I'm passing the phone to somebody that's also in a fake relationship.
Vinny, we're trying to figure it out. Like, that's not really helpful in the first place. Like, we just wanted you to make a joke, and it wasn't a joke.
So they're joking about
Vinny,
it.
that's not funny. Like, this is...
Like, they're obviously this is all set up.
Vinny, we're trying to figure it out. Like, that's not really helpful in the first place. Like, we just wanted you to make a joke, and it wasn't a joke. Vinny,
so this is a video about how they're in some kind of a relationship on how does this work? Is this the either March, right? Is this March 2nd or is this February 3rd? I'm assuming it's March 2nd. Let's just look into that really quick to figure out how they classify stuff. Yeah, okay, so it was March 2nd. So there's a clear acknowledgement that they're in some kind of a relationship.
Grandma, can you take
something that they're figuring out. Like the boundaries are unclear. And he's acknowledging that that's a thing by like contributing to the joke towards the end here, because this is Jack.
not really helpful in the first place. Like, we just wanted you to make a joke, and it wasn't a joke. Vinny, that's not...
And he's like, oh yeah, come on, man. Like he's also saying the same thing.
Vinny, we're trying to figure it out. Like, that's not really helpful in the first place. Like, we just wanted you to make a joke, and it wasn't a joke. Vinny, that's not funny. Like,
and it seemed to be a public meme about like the unsteadiness of their relationship. Okay, yeah. So like so it was correct in the first place. They were in some kind of a relationship. So it's like kind of dishonest for Jack Wright to be in the situation where he's acknowledging that there was a relationship in some capacity in that video that you just showed me, and then to say like we never had a relationship. That makes it very dishonest. That
simp.
Bro, see, this is the problem. Is like this stuff's all public. So the claim that they were never in a public relationship or in some kind of relationship is kind of dishonest, man.
I was just chilling on my phone on the bed. It was after for a long time. The next part of the video is very difficult for me to talk about. I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time. So the first incident where Sienna crossed boundaries, it was after filming.
And this is the thing, is like it could still be a violation. Like it's still violating, even if you're in a relationship, if you don't have a properly established boundaries. But I think that like trying to say that there was no relationship, I think that makes it kind of dishonest, because you even acknowledge that there's a confusing relationship that you're trying to figure out, a fake relationship. There's something going on there.
We went to the room. I was just chilling on my phone on the bed, and she got naked, like completely naked, nothing on, and straddled me when I was literally just chilling on the bed. But I didn't know what to do in like the situation, because it was just like random and weird. Quickly told her, Sienna, get off. We're just friends. Stop. They're trying to make out with me. They're like just doing a bunch of things to me, and I kept on saying, Sienna, stop, get off. I didn't want to like be like aggressive. I didn't want to hurt her, you know. So I pulled her off of me, and it took like a couple tries because I didn't want to be like too rough. And I went out of the room, and that was like the end of it. The next morning.
Okay, that's definitely a boundary crossing if he like said, stop, I don't like this.
Where she was like, I'm so sorry for doing that. That was, I don't know what went through my head. I had to clarify again that I didn't like her that way. We were just friends.
See, that's the part that gets me though. It's like, it's so hard because like they are talking about how they're trying to settle their fake relationship. And it seems like it's such a complicated thing.
She said sorry, that was it. After that, these type of things kept happening. She would do something and I would forgive her, and she said it wouldn't happen again, and we would go on and making fun videos. After all those type of things kept on happening, the Hawaii incident happened where I was passed out unconscious almost like the whole night. She got on top of me, took advantage of me, groped me. I'm so glad they pulled her off of me, and honestly I'm glad that they have evidence. After Sienna found out about the video, she said sorry. She said if this got out, she would be done. That is horrible, and she's working on boundaries, and she was seeking therapy. And
So stupid. The fucking seeking therapy is such a bullshit thing. Nobody's seeking therapy for fucking like bullshit. Like I don't doubt that she actually might have a boundary issue. Like I'm listening to Jack, but like the seeking therapy thing, like that probably doesn't mean a goddamn thing to her. People just say that when they get in trouble for like, oh, I'm going to a therapist. Like you don't really need a therapist to understand established boundaries.
shortly after, there was a party. I was taking pictures with a couple other girls. We took a picture. Sienna came in, started screaming at me, got mad at the girls, told me to come to her room to talk to me. She started screaming at me, and I was like, Sienna, there's no reason for you to be mad when you're getting
Yeah, I don't think that we're ever going to really get to the truth of it because there's so much
with other
inconsistency.
guys in LA. I can't just take a simple picture with a couple girls. That's when she pulled me in and grabbed me and tried to make out with me, and I got pissed and told her to leave. I wanted to stay at the party, and she kind of had already been yelling at every single person in the party. So two friends wanted to take her home, and while the car was moving, she jumped out of the car, rolled, and said, I have to get back to Jack. So I ran back to the house, and I was like hiding from her, and I was just waiting for her parents to finally pick her up. Looking back now, I don't know why I stayed friends with her, stayed around her. I truly thought she was gonna change for some reason. I feel like she'd say she had so much love for me and that she truly cared for me, and then the next night she would do something like that. She knew I had those boundaries. So when I was at my most like vulnerable state, like when I was arguing, getting heated, or when I was asleep or passed out, that's when she would take advantage of me because she knew I was at my most vulnerable state. And when I'm awake, that's when she would take advantage when I was arguing, getting heated, or when I was asleep or passed out. That's when she would take advantage of me because she knew I was at my most vulnerable state. And when I'm awake, I hated it. I hated that touch. I hated any intimacy with her because I knew we were just friends. I didn't want that from her. And especially with like the past couple things she did, I didn't want anything to do with that. Over the next couple of months, I was stuck in this toxic cycle. I was stuck with her crying to all my friends, saying that I didn't like her back and why don't I like her back, and she would get mad at me for not caring about her as much as she cared about for me, but she'd also be doing these things to me. I would go see other guys in LA, so it was like couldn't win at all. I couldn't get out of this. She would constantly come to my house, remember my door codes. It got to the point where I had to like start screaming at her to like get out of my house because I was so sick of her just like breaking into my house. I would wake up and see her car just sitting outside at like 2 in the morning. She would break into my house, and when I was sound asleep, she'd come to my room, and I'd wake up to her hand in my pants, and it wasn't like the only time it happened too. I was so like used
Jesus Christ, that's fucking creepy. The fuck?
to it. I was so used to it that I don't know, it was just like normal for me that I didn't think there was such like a problem at all. Like part of me wants
Well, he knew it was a problem because he said he would yell at her.
normal for me that I didn't think there was such like a problem at all.
I truly do wonder because this is really fucked up because so far what we were saying is like he's like we were never in a relationship and I would constantly tell her no and establish boundaries, and then I'd get angry and I would yell at her sometimes and I'd have to scream at her to get out of my house. I truly wonder what the motivation was for not ending the relationship in general. And I know like people's first response is gonna be, oh my god, you're victim blaming, but I'm really not. So like when it comes to a particular engagement, you have like engagement between two people. The problem when it comes to a lot of this abuse is when the person feels like they can't escape the engagement. So the question is like, why did he felt comfortable yelling at her and like telling her to get out? Why didn't he end the friendship? Maybe because like they were in like a TikTok group together and it would have ruined his career. I'm not entirely sure because of the hype house. Okay, I mean that makes sense. And then that makes sense. And then he wouldn't want to like ruin the hype house by like coming forward with this kind of shit. Okay, that makes sense.
Like part of me wants to blame myself for being nice and sticking around after so many times. But now I realize that I was stuck in this like manipulative cycle of her acting like she extremely cared about me, and then that night she would do stuff to me, and it was just so normal for me.
What is that, like love bombing? Is that what they call it?
Used to it, which sucks. I feel like no one should have to go through. It's weird. I almost felt like I owed it to her for some reason. I don't know why. Like I felt like she had this like control, like this power over me. It was all, I don't know. I was like stuck. And I feel like you should never have to like worry about like falling asleep and waking up to one of your good friends like touching you, you know? I was like terrified for some reason, which you shouldn't be from like a a person. One night she started ripping off my clothes, touching my crotch area, trying to make out with me. I mean, it was just like same old, same old. Like I'd say, Sienna, stop, go back to the couch, Sienna, stop. So I like locked the door, she was trying to get in, and I literally just slept on the floor, and she finally went to bed. It's like very awkward the next morning, and she'll say sorry, and I'm like, Sienna, this happens so many times, like, you do not respect boundaries.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, by the way, just this is, I'm not trying to laugh, but like, if this is true, I mean, like, that's very predatory behavior. Like, that's patterned predatory behavior. This is fucking insane. This is fucking insane.
You just, oh my God. So my dad was born and raised in Hawaii. So we planned a trip to the beach house my dad grew up on in Hawaii. And Sienna's family basically planned the same trip on the same dates. They left a couple days before us, and we were supposed to leave on a certain date. But I didn't want to leave because she already left to go back home, and I did not want to be at home with her because I know she'd find a way to start hanging out with me again. So my mom got a text from Sienna's mom saying that Sienna is on a plane taxiing right now. Hearing that she was coming back, it was like, this cycle is never gonna end. It's like, it's gonna be like this forever. That's what it felt like. She was always gonna make her way back towards me. She wasn't respecting my space at all. She knew I wanted my space. There's another time I went to Hawaii with a couple friends for like my trip, and she kind of found a way to get on that trip. And we went to a party one night. She got mad that I was talking to some girls, and she took me into the bathroom to talk to me, saying that she wanted to leave. She was blocking the door, so like I couldn't just like throw her out of the way. All I had was, stop, Sienna, don't do that. If I come out, she will like scream at me in front of everyone and think that I did something. I mean, I feel like no one believes a male, especially in like that type of situation. But yeah, she was on the counter.
Well, that's a big question. Is, do you feel like no one believes a male in that situation, or were you in a situation where your friends and the people that were around you were invalidating you, saying like, "Oh, you should just fuck this girl. Like, why are you being such a pussy?" That's a very serious question. So I wonder if he's just riding the social narrative by saying, "I feel like no one ever believes males." Or, and this actually would make sense. This would actually tie things together. And it makes sense that he may not want to express this because it would make his own family look bad. It would make his own brother look bad. It's possible that like the people around him were like, bro, why are you being such a pussy? Sienna's hot. Like, why don't you fuck Sienna or something like that? And he doesn't want to expressly say like, yeah, the people around me weren't being supportive because it's going to make them look like fucking rape apologists. And I think that's what big point of inconsistency that's happening here is that he's afraid. This is a big speculation, but it's not unlikely that his friend group was like, bro, why don't you just fuck this girl or whatever? She's hot, whatever. And like, he wants to express the bad thing that she did to him while also not calling them out. I think that makes the most sense to me because if that's not the case, I don't see why this would be as, it makes sense. Okay, if that's that would make sense as to why this was so traumatic. Because he literally, like, he couldn't be like, yo, guys, she's like trying to fucking take advantage of me. And they're like, dude, stop being a pussy. Like, that would be the response. So if that, like, high school bullshit mentality, that makes the most sense to me. And that ties it together for me. That you have Sienna Mae being way too overly aggressive when it comes to Jack Wright. Him being incredibly uncomfortable with it and not liking it whatsoever. The people around him like encouraging him to like be with her in some capacity, which is why they may have had some kind of confusion around their like fake relationship or real relationship or whatever it is, because he didn't want to seem like he was pussying out. And then him not expressly calling them out because he doesn't want to get them in trouble. The problem is with that is that, like, to me, if this scenario is real, which I think it's a reasonable assumption, that means that like his friends and the people who encouraged the behavior or didn't discourage it are actually part of the problem because they're encouraging her perspective. Like, they are actively encouraging her. That means that she's in the wrong, and like all the people around him that like that knew what was happening but still basically shamed him into accepting it. All those people are part of it. All those people would be part of the problem. And that makes the most sense to me because then it actually expressly explains why he didn't cut the relationship off. Because then it's like everybody in his sphere probably was saying, who cares? Why is this a problem to you? Oh, I wish Sienna did this to me. If that makes sense. That ties everything like together in a consistent way, which would probably explain why he's not why they have like why there's things that I'm sitting here questioning, like what about this, what about this, what about this. But if that's the case, then that would be what the problem is, right? And I think that's a reasonable assumption to make. So it's just very interesting. And their two families are close too. That's fair.
Wrapped her legs around me and started like, let me out of the bathroom. Yeah, just weird stuff. That night we went home, made sure we had like different rooms to stay in. And I got in the shower and she picked the lock of my door. I made sure to lock the doors, but she picked the lock.
Jesus Christ.
And walked in. I was in the shower. All I heard was just like the door opening. And that's when I was just done. I screamed at her, told her to get out. She started crying. She went and slept in my bed.
That's interesting too, because I think before it didn't process till now, where then she would sometimes scream and like yell and be like, oh, like almost play the victim every time that something happened.
And I went to my friend's trundle bed that was like upstairs, and that's how like the night ended. So now we're caught up to when everything went public, when Mason posted his tweet.
Okay.
Since everything was brought to social media, multiple guys came out to me and said that Sienna did similar things to them. And
interesting. Okay. I'm gonna maximize some of this so I can read it better. All right, bro. I just saw your TikToks. It really, if it's about Sienna, she was also really aggressive towards me to the point where friends had to be like, keep hiding me from her. Shit made me really uncomfortable. I was drunk, sleeping on the couch, and woke up with the homie saying, "What the fuck?" Because she had just got on top of me and was like sleeping on me. She was kissing my neck. We all got your back, bro. I don't want this to go anywhere, but want to tell you, low-key something me when I guess assaulted me when I was hella drunk and I was talking to a different girl probably like 6 months ago. So thank you for coming out and talking about it. It makes me feel better. Sienna low-key did the same shit to me at a party that was like that my house was throwing. Jack was there. I was drunk and so was she, but I was talking to her and she grabbed my face and started moving out with me when I was trying to push her off. I never told her I wanted to kiss her or anything. I was so uncomfortable. This was way before they were even a thing. I don't want to make it public, but I just want to tell you, I know you're all telling the truth. The girl, wild. This was way before we were even a thing. I'm so sorry that happened to you. You always talk to me from there. Okay, interesting. Jesus Christ. I wonder if these are. I mean, I don't know who these are. I wonder if these are like a large, like this person seems like he might be like somewhat of an influencer type. After all this info, if it's true, would that make Sienna predatory? Yes, it would make her a predator. It would make her an actual predator, right? So there's a difference between like somebody so there's a difference between the story that like I started with, which is still possible. I mean, but this means that he would have to be lying about all this stuff, which. I mean, it's possible. I don't know how likely it is. But the starting was like, oh, they were in some kind of a relationship and they didn't have like established boundaries. She was trying to imitate like a mature relationship. So from her perspective, she was just doing something that was acceptable. From his perspective, she was like actually violating him. And like with this new information, dude, it feels like even his own brother failed him. And he's just not willing to say it because he doesn't want to throw his brother under the bus. Because without that, it doesn't work. Without his brother, like, because his brother recorded the situation, but he didn't stop it, even though apparently it was happening multiple times. James was like, yeah, it happens all the time. It seems like maybe people like him or other people around him, maybe the brother wasn't the one. Maybe the brother recorded it because he was like, I got to record this. Nobody like will believe me, or what she's doing is shitty and everybody else in our sphere is not stopping it. No, predator isn't just for preying on kids. Predator is somebody who has a pattern of like predatory behavior. Kissing somebody or like taking advantage of somebody without like their consent, obviously. That is a predatory behavior, right? Yeah.
Basically, I'll show the text right now. I asked all of them for permission to post, crossed out all their names. We don't want her to hurt anybody else. We don't want anyone to go through that experience. At the time, it feels humiliating. You feel like you have no power. You have no control in the situation. You feel, I don't know, it's horrible. I just want to start off by saying that I didn't stay silent in this situation over these last couple months. I talked to my friends, my family, my parents, counselors, and I was able to process everything. I don't think I'll ever be the same person I was before Sienna. It sucks, and there's gonna be people that try to take advantage of you and get you at your most vulnerable state, and that's not fair. That's not fair at all. And it's a lot of the time it's usually like the nice people that like let people walk all over them, and that was me. Like I let everyone just walk all over me.
Yeah, see that right there, I feel like supports what I was saying. It's like he seems like there's a pattern of like letting people walk all over him. There was this interesting, I forget what we were watching, but actually I think it was this girl like yesterday, this person that said they had like DID and they grew up in a Mormon area, and they talked about how they couldn't, for a while in their life, they couldn't differentiate like lies or something. I forget the specifics, but what it was is that like she was like, you know, or they were like, somebody could say something up to me and I would just believe it. Like that was just a thing. Like they were very gullible and susceptible to be effectively being gaslit. And like it seems like what he just said there,
let people walk all over them. And that was me. Like I let everyone just walk all over me.
And it seems like if he's the kind of person that has a pattern of like letting people walk all over him, right? And that doesn't make it his fault for what Sienna did. I'm not saying that. But that to me suggests like, okay, like the narrative of like people around him, maybe not his brother, but maybe other people around him were saying like, oh, bro, you need to like man up, right? That's entirely possible. That's an entirely possible thing, and it makes sense to the whole story as we piece it together with these speculations, right?
No matter what, like I would do anything for anyone, and I think that's one of the things she gave me.
Especially since she apparently would like constantly love bomb him. Is the way that he's making it seem like is like she'd be like, I love you a lot, I like this, and then you know, then she would be fucking like, you know, she would take advantage of that, which seems to be something that people do. Like they'll love bomb you, they'll hit you with a bunch of niceties, and then they'll try to take advantage of you in some capacity, even if it's not in like a sexual capacity.
Was I learned how to be more bold and finally say no and know that it was right to speak out. I feel like people don't know what you go through until you're in it, and it's definitely like humiliating, weird, awkward. I want to be that person that says it's okay. It's okay to speak out. You're not going to be known for that. It's just a little obstacle that you have to get through. It's something you have to get through, and it sucks, but I feel like in my
Well, no. So, like what I was saying before, somebody said maybe since his brother recorded the recording, and the recording helped him, he may not see the brother as not helping or taking him off him as that bad since he was cycling. Okay, so this is, let me just kind of, I'm gonna do the paint. I'm sorry. So, like in the situation, why the fuck am I doing paint? So you have like Jack right here, and then you have the brother here, right, and then you have like Sienna Mae here, and then you have like a bunch of the people in their social circle around them over here. And so, like, we're trying to piece together, like, all the specifics, right? Because they were in some kind of, like, relationship, right? So, what we have is that they were in some kind of a relationship, which we know by watching this video here.
I'm passing the phone to somebody who only likes me when I'm with Jack.
I'm passing the phone to the nicest fuckboy I know. I'm passing the phone to a guy stuck in a fake relationship.
I'm passing the phone to somebody who's too socially awkward to talk to somebody in the first place.
I'm passing the phone to somebody that's also in a fake relationship.
Vinny, we're trying to figure it out. Like, that's not really helpful in the first place. Like, we just want...
Right, so, like, that video, to like, that shows to us that there was some relationship going on, right? So, if there was a relationship, it actually is, like, if there was some kind of romantic relationship, maybe it was public, maybe it was private, maybe some of it was for show, maybe some of it was not, then that kind of invalidates a lot of what Jack is saying. However, if the people around him in this sphere, if these people here, if they were saying like, why aren't you with her? She's like hot, or like, oh, she's trying to kiss you. Like, that's not a real problem. Like, you're a fucking pussy. You're a loser. If these people are around, and potentially the brother, but if all these people are saying that, it creates an environment where he feels like he has to go and play into the relationship because nobody around him cares. Nobody's believing him. And they're effectively, they're saying the wrong thing. Without the people in his social circle, and I don't doubt that these people will do that. Like a bunch of fuckboy like kids in a fucking hype house. Like, yeah, what do you think? Without all these people here to connect it, without that like fear of or that like societal engineering or the direct engineering, because he expressed that he would say no a lot, right? So he expressed that he would set an established boundary, be like, no, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. But the behavior continued without disconnecting. If he said no to her and she didn't respect the boundary, and then this is something that everybody else knew about, but they thought that he was just being a pussy, then that creates the scenario where like obviously you would develop some kind of like trauma, especially since how fucked up she was, like breaking into his house and shit like that. It's possible that the brother was another person in this scenario that didn't really see it as a problem, or it's possible that he was also a victim of the same thing that the brother was, obviously to a lesser extent, but that was of like being in an environment of a bunch of fuckboys in a hype house, telling him that everything that he says and does is wrong. Like, or rather saying that like, oh, this is fine. And then like him also being just as uncomfortable as the brother. That's the one that's the victim, obviously, of Sienna Mae. The reason I bring all this up is because if this is the scenario, this seems like it is possibly the scenario that makes her complicit. She's obviously the person who did the most wrong. But then all of these people that discouraged him from feeling comfortable being able to express himself are also complicit in this as well. Right? And now I doubt he's going to expressly say anything about these people because like that's going to hurt his career probably. And I understand that. But yeah, like this seems like the most likely thing. So it's possible the brother was part of this, was part of these people. It's also possible that he was like a victim of these people, you know? So it's just a very complex scenario.
Situation, like I've just learned. You learn from it. I've learned so much from everything. I've grown so much as a person. It's insane. And as of Sienna, I don't know if she'll ever be sorry. I don't know if she'll ever learn from what she did or she'll ever admit to what she did. But I just don't want her to do this to other people. If you've been through a similar situation as me, I encourage you just to speak out to anyone. And trust me, it helps so much. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to me and letting me take time and breathe and process everything. And I'm glad I'm finally ready to tell the world my story. If you're watching right now and you've been through a situation like mine, I just want to say your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid, your opinion is valid. I believe you, and I want you to know that you can talk to someone, you can talk to anyone, you can talk to me. But that's how I want to end it off. I love you guys.
Okay. So let me end this whole thing off here. And like basically talking about this. Let's end this whole thing off here with like a recap. So first and foremost, I know people that watch the video are gonna be like, Poppy, you're being very insensitive. What you have to understand is that like when it really boils down to it, these conversations about sexual assault, they're tough conversations to have. And we do live in a new age where people do say that like everything is sexual assault. Like the word grooming is thrown around. And so if you're sitting here being like, oh, you're so insensitive, well, you should also blame the people who weaponize sexual assault in order to hurt people rather than to be honest. Right. I think that was a very honest telling from Jack. He's definitely changed my mind on it. It's still a he said, she said type of a situation. He seems like a pretty credible individual. I don't know why he would lie. Again, like, you know, I guess innocent until proven guilty, but that was like just as credible, if not more credible than what Sienna Mae had said, especially since the way that she expressed her thing was a fucking interpretive dance, which was fucking insane. Right. At the beginning of this situation, or at the beginning of this, at the beginning of this, with the Sienna Mae story, the way that she presented it sounds like, okay, here's Sienna Mae, here's Jack Wright, right? They are dating in some capacity, right? They are dating. Part of it's online, but part of it's also offline. They would kiss and they would hug online and offline. These guys were something that wasn't like actually directly established, but it was there. And so that entire interaction where like she got on top of him was still problematic because they hadn't set like established boundaries, but I wouldn't say that she was she wasn't a predator in that situation because she was trying to imitate what healthy relationships do. That doesn't mean that he wasn't violated, but then that takes away like the intention is very important. The action is important, but also the intention is there. The way that Jack describes this, and I'm speculating on some of the stuff to fill in some holes that I feel like he's not super like comfortable affirming. So I'm definitely giving him the benefit of the doubt. But in this situation, there's like a Jack, there's Sienna, and then there's Jack. And she would constantly be explicit and inappropriate with him all the time, even when he would say no. And the reason that he would continue to put up with the behavior and not disconnect himself is because all the people in the hype house around him, or whatever other people in the hype house, maybe their managers, anybody that's within his same social sphere, possibly even his own family, maybe his brother, or maybe not because his brother didn't record it, maybe his own dad, maybe his mom, like maybe anybody. There's so many different people. Maybe Sienna's dad, maybe Sienna's mom. They would see this behavior and they would be like, well, this isn't really a big deal. I don't understand why you don't like him. You know, or like you should just kind of put up with it. She's hot, like depending on the person that was saying it. Maybe even the parents here, right? maybe even these parents here potentially encouraging the behavior, being like, oh my God, isn't that so cute? And then Jack feeling like he has nowhere else to go within his social circle. But he's too hesitant about saying anything about the particular situation because his entire sphere doesn't support him. This one makes the most sense. And it also seems like Sienna would love bomb the fuck out of him and give people the impression that, like, oh, they really liked each other, because she would love bomb him and then he would kind of like absorb the love bombing and not want to make her look bad. This is basically the interpretation of Jack adding in some of those spaces with reasonable assumptions. So that's the two situations we have here. This actually makes a lot of sense, though. I'm leaning more towards this. It's always possible, because of course you're innocent until proven guilty, but it's always possible that this is true. But I don't know. This actually makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm thinking that this is the thing going on with the Jack Wright situation. It makes a lot of sense. And it does absolutely show like predatory behavior from Sienna. Again, innocent until proven guilty. We have to make sure that we understand that. But I think that Jack's case was very reasonable. I think it was very reliable. I think it was very honest. So, okay.